Welcome to another episode of SOTI TV. We got an exciting agenda for you today. We're going to be diving into the retail tech revolution and understanding how organizations can manage modern technology tool sets to improve the consumer experience. We're going to be diving in and talking about how the rise of automated and contactless shopping is empowering organizations to stay competitive and make sure that shoppers can shop online or in store for a seamless process. We're going to talk about the importance of analytics and data for organizations to be able to make data-driven decisions. My name is Mikhail, and I'm joined by my co-host Mario.
Thanks, Mikhail, and let's get right into it. So for today's episode, we have a very special guest. He's a good friend of mine, Nick Chimber, Director of North American Sales. Nick, thank you so much for joining us today. Greatly appreciate you here. How's it going?
It's going great. Mario, thank you for having me. I'm excited for today's episode.
Glad to have you on.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
So before we get started, we're gonna play a little bit of a game, okay? And that game I like to call Rapid Fire Round. So with that being said, very simple game. I'm gonna give you guys a series of questions, and each question is going to have the options of one or the other, and you have to choose one of those two. Okay. We're gonna start with Nick, then Mikhail, and then myself. You guys ready?
I'm ready.
Awesome. So, movies or TV shows?
For me, it's TV shows.
TV shows, for sure.
Yeah, I'm gonna pair up with that. TV shows are pretty good right now. Now, for travel, is it fly or drive?
I prefer drive.
Well, if the option is I'll take a private plane to fly anywhere, so.
I would not mind flying ever so often. It's good to get out. So the other one is robot delivery or human delivery?
Human delivery for me.
I'm going robot.
Robot?
Feel less inclined to tip.
I'm going with human. I prefer my food showing up to my door on time. Store or online?
In-store for me.
Yeah, I'm gonna go in store.
Online, I don't want to go to a store. Self-checkout or cashier?
I prefer the cashier.
I like the cashier too.
Self-checkout. I just want to get my stuff and I just want to go. Now, I have a little bonus question. 51st state or 11th province?
Mario, don't get political on us. We got a whole episode ahead of us.
I'm kidding. And we do have a lot to talk about today, ladies and gentlemen. Mikhail, walk us through. What are we going through and what are we starting with first?
Yeah, so let's really dive into it, right? And the first thing we really want to tackle is the retail tech revolution. We're really seeing organizations adopt a multitude of different technologies. And from the industry stats that we're seeing retailers specifically adopt about 2 to 3 new devices per year, right? And we've talked about really streamlining the consumer experience. As you can see on our display here, there's a multitude of these technologies that have to come together to really empower that experience. So whether we're talking about printers, digital displays, smart mirrors, tablets, self-serve checkout kiosks, this technology just has to work for that experience to truly come together. And one of the things we're really going to dive into today is how are organizations going to be managing all these different of technologies with the modern management tool stack? And I think for me, if you haven't caught our episode 1, definitely tune in because Carl takes us through what that modern management tool stack looks like and what organizations have to plan for as we see the prevalence of all these devices in organizations today.
Right, and just remember, ladies and gentlemen, that'll be in the description at the bottom for you guys to go have a look at and see. So let's talk a little bit about that, right? So Nick, you just were traveling recently. You just got to go see a customer. Tell us about your experience and what you're seeing. Is it matching up to what we're seeing here?
Yeah, I mean, I just got the pleasure of visiting one of our newest customers, and it was really great to walk through their retail store and see that retail technology revolution, right? And from self-checkout to the digital signage and to the new Android devices they use, they really rely on Mobi Control XS to manage that. And the feedback I got was by utilizing Mobi Control XS, they were able to reduce the number of tickets they were getting, and they were able to resolve those times faster, even though they were adding so much more technology. So it was great to see and great to talk to some of our customers in retail.
Yeah, and I mean, it's interesting because when we talk about the support aspect of the modern management tool stack, organizations really need to write pretty much tools, advanced diagnostics, analytics, and data set, as you said, right, to drive the first call resolution rates, to reduce device downtime. And I think that's really where we need to have that streamlined approach, regardless of the device that you're using. I got to be able to support a printer the same way that I'm supporting the traditional handhelds today, right? So I think it's really relevant.
Yeah, or even that digital signage now, which in the past you wouldn't have thought about.
Yeah, and one of the things that we wanted to show our viewers is, and Mario, I know you're a big proponent of just walk out technology and not having to really speak with anyone on there. You talked about that self-serve checkout. And one of the cool concepts was this Amazon Go store, which I think really frames this well. So if we can just take a look at this video, and really what Amazon Go technology is the capability to be able to pick an item up or walk into a store, get whatever you need, and just walk out. You get billed for those items, and they're using a multitude of different cameras, different recognition technologies to be able to actually understand what items did you pick up, talking to back-end systems to understand how much they are, and then obviously billing you as the consumer. So there's a lot of things that got to go right in that equation for you to actually have that experience. And I know I personally myself was recently at Scotiabank Arena, which is our sports arena in Toronto here, and they're doing a massive renovation. And for me, when I walked in there, every single store I went into, from food and beverage to the actual, like the clothing aspect of it, everything was just walk out technology. I couldn't find anyone. The only person that was there is once I got my beer and I walked out, they just opened the beers for you. I guess that's one of their policies, but no people checking you out. You just tap in with your phone and you tap out. I loved it. I gotta tell you, I found it very streamlined, especially during those short breaks we get in between periods.
Right. I mean, I recently on that same trip went to the airport, and my first experience of going through a store where they didn't actually have anybody working it, right? So it's very important that that technology is working, especially if there's not, humans there, as you mentioned, humans or robots to help us out with that.
Agreed. And I think that's a great segue into our next section, is talking about the rise of automated and contactless shopping, right? And when we see this, we've talked about the different devices, the different consumer expectations, but I really think this also leads into the evolution of the modern management stack and how retailers are adopting it. And I want to throw this over to you guys. Like, what are you seeing as organizations are demanding more and more from their management systems to support all these pieces of technology?
Nick, you're our guest. Why don't you go first and I'll go next?
Yeah, I mean, similar to what I said, right? We're putting more technology in these stores, and it's more reliant on a mission-critical software to help them manage it. And the biggest thing retailers tell me is, how do we decrease our expenditures but maintain or increase our top line, right? So that's why it's becoming so important with this technology.
Definitely agree with you, Nick, there, because even if we look at self-service checkout as a primary example, you have an associate, at least one associate that's standing there, and they're there to service the guest. Please come to this aisle. Hey, do you have your card? Do you have your points card? How can I help you? Their job is primarily to service the customer and make sure that they have a great experience. We should be on the side, or at least what we do on our side, is ensuring that that technology is operational at all points in times. If you have 10 self-service checkouts, you're going to want to operate at 10, because that means your customer is coming in, getting what they need, having a great experience, having somebody help them for their needs, and not worry about the technology at the end of the day. And I think that's where we're really going next, and that's where retail is heavily driving.
Yeah,
that's what I'm seeing.
Nick, you mentioned something, and I just want to really help our viewers understand that. You mentioned mission critical technology, right? What does that mean?
Well, to explain it, right, mission critical technology is if that device or that piece of technology isn't working, like I mentioned, it's either, causing a loss of top line revenue, where, product abandonment. If a self-checkout machine's not working, consumer might just leave it there and go somewhere else to buy it, right? So it's very critical for our customers to have their mission critical devices or that technology in retail operating at all times.
Yeah. And Mario, I think one other thing is, you talked about personal shopper, and it's something, I've had a chance to actually utilize when I was out in Europe, as it's a big use case there. I know we have a couple of our customers from the Nordics that are diving in and really building on top of this technology. But for a lot of our global audiences, they might not had an experience with a personal shopper device. So maybe just for everyone's knowledge, Mario, can you just take them through, like, what does that personal shopper experience feel like?
Yeah, absolutely. So let's walk a bit through it and kind of walk our customers and our guests online what's going on. So as you can see here on the video behind me, you get a card, you tap it onto the device itself, because that signs you in with your account. And the primary driver is for you to be able to have a shopping experience where you're not waiting in line, you're already pricing out exactly all the items that you want in a seamless experience. And if you're having troubles with it, you have the ability to work with AI technologies to search for a very specific product that this handheld is in your hand, speeding up your time to go ahead and get all the things that you need so that you're there scanning that product and you are in and you are out of that store. You can see the smile on the lady's face as she's going through all the different products that she needs, getting what she needs, and she's out the door. The importance is that how do we ensure that technologies like that are being adopted correctly? How do we make sure that they are actually getting in the customer's hands and that we're utilizing to the maximum capabilities? That's the real question that a lot of people have.
I gotta say, like when I actually had a chance to use one of these systems, one of the other things that I found really cool is as you're shopping, it's actually giving you coupons or suggested deals of the week. So it really is a very engaging consumer experience, not only from saving money, but right in your hands. You know exactly what might be on special based on your existing shopping habits. And I know one of the big things that we talk about in retail is that personalized shopping experience. And I think technology like that really underscores the need for things like this. And, you know, especially with AI coming on board and really streamlining a lot of these operations as well. One of the other, you know, when we talk about piece of technology, a lot of time we talk about devices that the consumer would engage in. But one of the really cool devices, or I would even say robots that we had a chance to work with was Tori, short for inventory. And it was a robot that we worked with out in our Australia team. And we actually had Tori visit us in our SOTI Sync 23 conference out in Munich. And he got to, you know, schmooze around the room and he got to meet some of our customers and partners. But it was really cool because it's technology like that that's also empowering stock management, right? Reducing stock discrepancies. And our software is running on that device no different than it runs on a handheld scanner or a digital display, making the management of them completely seamless.
Yeah, it's great because you have pieces of technology like this that are able to measure out that inventory, have a look to see what needs to be replenished. And if you keep constantly replenishing the products that your customers are most actively buying, you're ensuring that that buying experience is always consistent. It also saves times for the employees. They don't have to go to every single aisle and go check themselves and go have a look and look at the back. They just get it directly to the device in their hands, right? We said 2 to 3 devices and says, hey, I want you to go to aisle 12 and restock crackers or chips or whatever those things may be. And Tori helps out with that because Tori's moving all around.
And it's just so interesting to me, right? Like, because like we really talk about this tech stack, right? It's no longer just about one device. It's about all the different devices that employees have to leverage. And even if we look at warehousing as an example, I got my belt printer, I have my rugged handheld scanner, I'm getting augmented reality glasses now for route optimization, I'm getting, you know, finger scanners, glove scanners. So all these things have to work. And now we're really getting into the era of mobile workforce management, that it doesn't matter if it's 1 or 2 devices, you're really managing the complete tech stack that that employee needs to be as efficient as possible in the organization, right? So that's quite interesting to me. And you guys know I love robots. So I got to tell you, I had a chance to experience another really cool use case, specifically with Serve Robotics. So in the video that you're going to see here, these robots, I was in LA a couple of months ago, and I was walking down the street and I saw this robot just drive right by me. I'm like, whoa, this is cool. Love robots. What's going on here? I looked at it and I got a chance to look about the brand a little bit. And it's really interesting because this is what they're using for food delivery. And really, when you order it, it can just show up right at your door in a few minutes. And I actually have another picture that I loved. This is me actually getting up close and personal with one of those robots. I don't know if I was actually supposed to be that close. They did have a sign on it, please don't approach the robot. But I just couldn't shy away from that lovely smile that that robot was giving me. So I got to tell you, it was quite exciting to see that up close and personal.
Classically on brand, aren't you? I'm loving the SOTI hat just everywhere you go. Robots are really important. We're seeing them really starting to dive pretty heavily down into a lot of organizations. And what I really want to do is take a moment to go through with our audience an interesting fact of saying, how do you know when you buy technology, whether it's a robot or a scanner or so on and so forth, that you want to ensure that your return on investment is being maximized? Most organizations today, when they buy their technology, they're looking 2 or 3 years down the road and seeing maybe a profit margin increase, but they don't know if that performance is really being maximized. And what we're gonna do is we're gonna actually cut over to Mikhail, and Mikhail's gonna walk us through how do you measure that personal customer experience. Mikhail, take us through it.
No, thank you so much, Mario. And what I'm going to be showing here is one of the brand new features of Excite. And we talked about the personal shopper experience, and I want to just level set on a bit of the use case that we're going to be showing here. So in the personal shopper experience, there's typically two types of scenarios that you're going to face. As a consumer, you're going to walk in, you're going to pick up one of those devices from an entry wall, you're going to do your shopping. Once you're done, you're going to go back and put that device on an exit wall where the device charges back up and kind of is ready to go for the next use when it's brought back over. That's one of the first use cases. The second use case that I want to introduce you to is the ability where there's only an entry wall, where they come in, they pick up their device, but then they can leave it in a bin or in another area. And using the extensive technology that we've introduced with SOTI Excite, and particularly around our functionality of specialization dashboards, is the personal shopper experience. So we worked with various vendors to really bring this technology to life and empower organizations with the right data sets for them to make data-driven decisions. So let's take a look at what this looks like. So right here, I'm on the device utilization dashboard, and right away you'll see that I'm presented with a lot of different data sets. So let me take you through how an organization would actually use this to understand how their devices are being utilized. So here we have the various manufacturers that are currently prevalent in this particular organization, comprised of a Zebra PS20 and a PS30 device. As I talked about the entry walls and the exit walls, so you'll see that organizations are able to map where the various walls are. And again, these organizations could have a multitude of walls depending on the size and scope of that particular store. So you see that we have our entry and our exit walls, and what we're gonna see in this particular chart is actually how long devices are taking to go between an entry wall and an exit wall on this particular time interval. So really helping you understand how these devices are actually traversing through the particular store. Now, when we go further down a little bit, this chart really provides you a complete overview at a corporate level. So making sure that if I have 10 or 100 stores, then we're gonna be able to understand how my complete devices across the whole organizations are functioning. And we really bucket them into three key categories: utilized, not utilized, and offline. And typically the offline ones I'm gonna need to do something with, right? That is my call to action. I need to make sure I understand what's happening with those particular devices. Now, in true SOTI fashion, we wanna make this as intuitive as possible. So for every chart that you see here, we actually have a little information icon, and I can take a look to see what is this chart actually showing me as it relates to the type of value that I can get from that particular data set. So when we go a little bit further down, now we really get into some key statistics. So here, we're gonna be able to see what is the average time of a device in a particular wall. So you see that the walls we previously defined are on there, and that's gonna help organizations really understand how the devices are being used during peak times, during potentially slower times. So we always make sure we have the right amount of devices in those entry walls, and the devices from the exit walls are brought back to the entry walls at times of peak utilization. We also have this average device utilization time by date, so really understanding and being able to see how these devices are being utilized by the end users. And as you can see here, this is the time from the entrance wall to the exit wall, or the entrance walls to checkout in the second example that I showed you. So this becomes really interesting because it also gives you end user statistics of how long are they actually utilizing those particular devices. Now here, this is more of an administrative scope. Here we can see how long is it taking associates to actually move a device potentially from the exit wall back to the entry wall, because if there's not enough devices at the entry wall, it's going to impede the consumer experience. They might go across the street and shop at a competitor if they're not able to partake in that. So now we're going to be able to see, do we need to streamline the way that these devices are being managed within a particular organization? And as always, if I wanted to hone in on any of these data sets, I do have my device list right here, and I can actually look at the devices that are being leveraged, or if I want to focus in on a particular piece of hardware to really understand the average session time, the average time in the entrance, or the transfer time. So all this information is available to you so you can make data-driven decisions. Now, we didn't stop there. We took it a step further, and we were actually able to provide the breakdown by store. So now not only are we looking at it from a corporate level, but we're now looking at this at a store level to really understand, do we have enough hardware in various stores? And if we don't, can we reallocate some of those pieces of hardware to reduce the amount of money that organizations are spending on purchasing additional hardware where they can just reallocate from another store? And I think the biggest thing about those are hard savings. When you don't have to buy another device, you are saving $1,000, $2,000 right out of the gate and really optimizing and streamlining your operations. So now going back to our charts here, we can actually see the maximum utilization by store. So as an organization, you're able to define your store structure and you're able to see what's being utilized, what's not actively being utilized, and what is offline. So if we take a look at our Mississauga store, that's definitely something I'm going to want to review because we see that the majority of their devices are not being utilized. This could indicate a new store opening. It could potentially indicate that they're going through a transformation or a renovation, whatever it may be. But I know there's something that I need to look into there, or I will know based on other corporate information. So it makes it really interesting and very easy to be able to spot those kind of trends. We also have the same information really broken down by the percentage of the available hardware. We have the minimum by store in terms of the devices that are being leveraged, and the same information being broken down by percentage. And we want to do that because we want to make sure that organizations have any of their data sets at their fingertips, depending on what they're looking at that day, that week, that month, or all the way back to a year prior. So very, very interesting to be able to see that. Now, two other charts that I really want to hone in on here is average device utilization by store. So again, if we just click on our information on here, this chart is going to specifically be able to tell you how long the users are using those devices. So as we know, it might be a smaller regional store, maybe it's a larger flagship store, but we'll be able to understand what are the end user shopping trends and how long they're actually taking with those particular devices. So if I click on our flagship store here, right away you're going to see that the end users are using the devices for about 30 minutes. So that way you can start looking at predictive analytics, whether you need more devices, if the shopping trends are getting longer, maybe during specials, maybe during peak hours, we're seeing that change from 30 minutes, maybe to 50 minutes because they're doing a larger shopping after work or whatever it may be, right? Different people shop differently, but the data will represent any of those trends right away for you here in real time. And the other last thing that I want to point out here is the average device return time by store. And this is what I talked about when you have those entry and those exit walls. What ends up happening there is we want to make sure that associates are moving those devices as quickly as possible so there's a new device charged and ready to use for that next shopper that comes into the store. So again, this type of technology will allow organizations to go in and with a single view understand if they're being as efficient as possible or if they need to reallocate some staff or do different corporate trainings to make sure the highest adoption rates of those devices and really be able to take control of those mobile estates. So as I said, taking control of the total cost of ownership, improving the ROI, ensuring there's always the right technology to provide that streamlined consumer experience that we're expecting today and stay competitive in today's landscape.
I think it's important that all the things that you mentioned, Mikhail, because when we look at it, we need products out there that are going to continue to support our customers and their investments. What's really important to our customers and our viewers is having a look at how all the products that you have out there, whatever technology stack you may be looking at, is fully supported, managed, and you get analytics from it. Like Mikhail mentioned before, your return on investment needs to be managed and it needs to be measured. And how do you do that today? Is by looking at the modern tech stack. And that's my next point, is being able to put in modern tech stacks today to help streamline your customer experience, not just your business. Also looking at streamlining logistics channels to ensure that we're delivering on time at a rapid rate to our customers also adds a level of success. Adopting mission critical devices and ensuring that they're optimized in a mannerism that helps best push your foot forward in the technology within retail today is also paramount. With that being said, Nick, I wanted to thank you for your time today. We greatly appreciate you joining us on the podcast today. Any parting words for our viewers today?
Definitely. And Mario, Mikhail, thank you for having me. And some parting words is what I hear from a lot of our customers is are they getting the most out of their investment for this retail technology? And a lot of the devices we talked about, they don't know the analytics. And Mikhail, you did a great demo today talking about a lot of the different analytics that they can get, and our customers can now make the right business decisions for their organizations moving forward. So technology like this is more important than ever in today's day and age in the retail landscape.
Awesome, appreciate it. And Nick, if anybody wanted to talk to you about some of the subjects that we went over today, how do they get in contact with you?
Yeah, you guys can reach out to me on LinkedIn anytime.
Beautiful, thank you so much, Nick. So if you found our content meaningful and in any way, do us a favor, click the subscribe button, smash that like button, leave us a comment, and we'll be sure to get back to you. That's all we have for today. Thank you for tuning in to SOTI TV, and we'll see you next time.